You see, love is like water. The more tightly you try to grasp it in your hands, the faster it slips through your fingers. This is one of the oldest lessons of life, and yet it is the one we resist the most. We imagine that by clinging, by holding on, by tightening our grip, we can make love stay. But the opposite happens. Love suffocates. It transforms into fear, jealousy, and eventually pain. And so, I want to show you why this happens, and why letting go may be the only way to truly love. We are raised to believe that love means possession, that to love someone is to own them, to keep them. But the truth is that love is not ownership, it is participation in a dance. A dance that has no destination, no final step, and no guarantee. You do not dance in order to arrive somewhere. You dance because the movement itself is the joy. So in love, if you try to arrive, if you try to make it permanent, unchanging, fixed, you turn a dance into a prison. And the tragedy is, the very thing you wanted to keep alive, you have killed with your own hands. Think about this. When you first fall in love, there is freedom, there is laughter, there is play. You don't demand, you don't insist, you simply enjoy. That's why it feels alive. But over time, the mind begins to interfere. It whispers, what if they leave me? What if they don't love me tomorrow? What if I lose this? And so fear enters love. And fear always demands control. Fear says, hold on tighter, don't let them go, protect this at all costs. But love and fear cannot live together for long. Where there is fear, love suffocates. Where there is love, fear dissolves. You see, to try to possess love is like trying to trap a butterfly in a jar. You may admire its beauty for a moment, but soon it withers. Love must have air, it must have space, it must have freedom. Without freedom, it is no longer love, it is attachment, addiction, dependency. And the curious thing is that the world praises attachment and calls it love. We write songs about it, we build entire industries upon it, and yet, deep down, everyone feels the tension of trying to hold what cannot be held. That is why so many suffer in love, because they confuse possession with presence. Now, let me tell you a secret. Love is not something you have, it is something you allow. Just as you cannot make yourself fall asleep, you cannot force yourself to love or be loved. You can only let it happen, and the more you try to force it, the more it escapes you. This is why people who demand love often feel starved of it, while those who simply radiate love seem to receive it everywhere. Love is like light. It shines, it spreads, but if you try to catch it in your hand, you find there is nothing to hold. Consider how many heartbreaks are caused by this misunderstanding. A man or a woman clings desperately to another, trying to ensure they will never leave, and in the process, they drive the very person away. They mistake chains for affection, demands for devotion, and fear for passion. And when it all collapses, they say, love has betrayed me. But it is not love that betrayed them. It is their own attempt to control what cannot be controlled. They wanted the river to stand still, and when it refused, they cursed the water, forgetting that the beauty of the river is in its flow. The art of loving is not the art of possession. It is the art of letting go. And this sounds frightening, doesn't it? Because the mind says, if I let go, I will lose everything. If I give freedom, they will leave. But think of this, when you hold something too tightly, it wants to escape. When you give it space, it often chooses to stay. The irony is that people are far more likely to remain where there is freedom than where there is control. For freedom is the oxygen of love. Without it, love cannot breathe. But we must go deeper. Why do we cling in the first place? Why do we hold love so tightly it turns into pain? The reason is insecurity. We are not at ease with ourselves. We believe we are incomplete, and so we imagine another person will complete us. And when we find them, we say, at last, I am whole. But if your wholeness depends on another person, then it is fragile, and you will cling. Real love begins only when you no longer need the other to complete you. Then you can meet as two whole beings not as two beggars trying to steal from each other's cups. The paradox is simple. Only the one who can be alone can truly love, because their love is not born of need but of overflow. They do not cling because they are not afraid of losing. They know that love is not a possession, it is a gift. And gifts are only beautiful when they are freely given, not forced. To force love is to strangle it. To let it breathe is to see it blossom. This is why the sages have always said, if you love someone, set them free. If they stay, it is because love is alive. If they go, it is because love has taken another form. Let me put it another way. Love is like music. Imagine a violinist who plays a beautiful melody. You stop them and say, play only this one note forever so I can hold it. That would kill the music. The beauty of the melody is in its movement, in its changes, in its impermanence. Love is the same. To try to freeze it in time is to kill it. It must be allowed to move, to grow, to change. Otherwise, it becomes stale, heavy, painful. And many relationships die, not because love disappears, but because it was forced into a shape that love itself cannot endure. The reason people cling is because they have confused security with love. They imagine that love must provide them with permanence, with an unchanging guarantee. But you see, the whole beauty of life is that it is never fixed. A flower blossoms and fades, a star is born and burns out, the seasons come and go. To demand that love be exempt from this universal law is to ask it to become something unnatural. And when we try to force love into permanence, it rebels and it becomes pain. Love, like everything else, belongs to the rhythm of change. It is a wave, not a frozen sculpture. The wave rises, it crests, it falls, and it rises again. To try to hold it at the crest forever is to fight against the ocean itself. And this is the reason so many people are miserable in relationships. They expect love to be always at the peak, always at the beginning, always aflame. But that is not how the universe works. Even fire must rest into embers. Even music must pause between notes. Without change, there is no beauty, no meaning, no love. So, if you wish to love without pain, you must learn to love in rhythm with change, to dance with it, rather than to resist it. You must understand that love cannot be captured, it can only be celebrated in the moment. And the more you celebrate, the more it flows. This is the essence of joy, to play with the stream of life instead of trying to dam it. When you let love be what it is, without trying to freeze it, you discover that it is infinitely renewable. But when you cling, you discover only exhaustion and disappointment. Suppose you are sitting by a river and the water is flowing past you. You admire its movement, its sparkle, its coolness. But then you think, I must keep this water. I cannot let it go. And so you scoop it into a bucket. But soon it grows stagnant, it smells, and it loses the very quality that made it beautiful. Love is the same. Its beauty is in its flowing, in its coming and going, in its playfulness. To demand it to stay still is to destroy its essence. Love is alive because it moves. You may say, but if I do not hold on, if I do not protect it, won't it disappear? And here lies the great paradox. Love disappears most quickly when you try to secure it, and it lasts longest when you allow it to be free. Because what nourishes love is not control, but trust. And trust is the courage to allow what you love to be itself. It is the recognition that love is not a possession, but a gift, one that may be given today, and perhaps not tomorrow, but only in its freedom does it retain its truth. But people are afraid of freedom. You see, we have been trained from childhood to think in terms of ownership. We are taught, this is my toy, my house, my car, my spouse. And so we approach love with the same mentality. But love is not a piece of property. A man or a woman is not something you own. And when you think you do, the relationship becomes a struggle between jailer and prisoner. The prisoner seeks escape, and the jailer lives in fear. Neither is free, and both suffer. Love cannot survive in such a prison. It requires open skies. Freedom makes us vulnerable. It means there are no guarantees, no contracts of permanence. And we crave certainty. We crave it because we are insecure, because we do not trust life. But to demand certainty from love is to miss what love is. Love is alive precisely because it is uncertain. It is like laughter, spontaneous, unpredictable, irrepressible. If you demand that someone laugh on command, it is no longer laughter. It is forced, mechanical. The same with love. It cannot be commanded, only invited. And here is the curious thing. When you stop demanding love, you begin to find it everywhere. For love is not confined to one person. It radiates through existence itself. The song of a bird, the rustle of trees, the smile of a stranger, all of these are forms of love. And when you are no longer clutching desperately at one person, you begin to discover that love is the very fabric of life. Then, when you do love another human being, it is no longer out of fear or need, but out of joy. And that love is unbreakable, even if it changes form. We must learn a new attitude. Instead of saying, I must keep this love, I must control it, we say, I am grateful this love is here now. I will dance with it while the music plays. And when the music changes, we continue to dance, for that too is part of the song. You see, the wise lover does not cling to permanence. He rejoices in the fleeting, knowing that the fleeting is what makes it precious. A rainbow is beautiful precisely because it does not last. So is a flower, so is love. Do not misunderstand me. This does not mean that love cannot last. Many loves last for a lifetime, but they last not because they were chained, but because they were given freedom to breathe. A long love is a miracle of continual renewal, not a triumph of control. It is two beings who meet each day anew, who do not assume, who do not cling, but who rediscover each other again and again. And such love has no fear, because it does not demand tomorrow. It simply delights in today, and by doing so, tomorrow comes as a gift. When you find yourself tempted to cling, remember, the tighter your grip, the sooner love will slip away. Instead, open your hand, let the bird perch freely. If it wishes to fly, let it fly. If it wishes to stay, let it stay. In either case, your joy does not depend on possession, but on presence. And in that presence, you find something deeper than security. You find trust, and trust is stronger than chains. For chains break, but trust grows. Chains enslave, but trust liberates. And only in liberty can love flourish without turning into pain. Consider the way children love. They laugh, they play, they quarrel, and then they laugh again. They do not sit in worry about whether their friend will still love them tomorrow. Their love is immediate, spontaneous, alive, and that is why it feels so real. Adults, on the other hand, are always calculating, how long will this last? What if it ends? How can I secure it? And in doing so, they strangle the very joy they seek. To love as a child loves is to return to innocence. It is to love without clinging, without fear, without calculation. You may ask, but what about commitment? What about responsibility? And these too have their place. But commitment is not a chain, it is a choice made freely, again and again. Responsibility is not a burden, it is the joy of caring. When commitment and responsibility come from freedom, they nourish love. When they come from fear and control, they poison it. You see, the essence of love is that it must be free. Otherwise, it is not love. It may be attachment, obligation, or dependence, but it is not the living flame of love. So the teaching is simple, yet difficult to accept. Love is not something you hold. It is something you let flow. It is not a possession, but a participation. It is not a guarantee, but a gift. And if you try to own it, you will lose it. But if you allow it, you will discover it everywhere, endlessly renewed. This is the paradox of love. It stays only when you stop trying to make it stay. It is faithful only when it is free. And it is most alive when you do not cling, but simply delight in its presence. Let us learn the art of loving without clinging. Let us open our hands, our hearts, and allow love to breathe. For the moment you stop clutching, love ceases to be pain and becomes joy. It ceases to be fear and becomes freedom. And then you will know what the poets and sages have always known, that love is not something you can keep, but something you can only give. And in the giving, it renews itself forever. To hold too tightly is to kill it, but to let it be is to watch it blossom endlessly.